The heavy iron gates of the prison opened with a loud sound. Arthur stepped into the cold, gray morning air. Rain washed the dusty streets of the city. He wore a thin jacket and old shoes. 20 years stole his youth and his joy. He held a small piece of torn paper. It had an address written in blue ink. His daughter, Claire, lived at this exact place. She was only 5 when he went away. Now she was a successful, rich lawyer. Arthur walked slowly down the wet, empty sidewalk. His bones ached from the freezing winter air. He had no money and nowhere to go. He only wanted to see his girl again. He needed to tell her one final truth. He found her tall, shiny office building soon. People in expensive suits rushed past him quickly. He felt small and dirty in this place. He walked up to the shiny front desk. He asked to see Claire with quiet words. The guard looked at his dirty, old clothes. He told Arthur to leave the building immediately. But Arthur refused to move from the spot. He said he was Claire's long-lost father. The guard called the security office right away. Then, the elevator doors opened with a ding. A beautiful woman stepped out into the lobby. She wore a sharp, black business suit. Her eyes were cold, hard, and very dark. Arthur knew her face instantly in his heart. "Claire," Arthur whispered with a shaking, weak voice. She stopped and looked at the old man. Her face turned pale white with sudden shock. She recognized the man from her old photos. It was the father who ruined her childhood. "What are you doing here?" she asked angrily. Her voice was sharp like a frozen knife. "I just got out today," Arthur said softly. "I do not care at all," Claire replied. "Leave now or I will call the police." Arthur did not back away from her anger. "I just need one day," he told her. "I have no time for a killer," she said. Claire turned her back to walk away fast. "I know the real truth," Arthur said loudly. Claire froze in her tracks and turned around. "What did you just say?" she asked quietly. "I know what really happened that dark night." Arthur looked deep into her angry, sad eyes. "Give me 24 hours, and I will tell." Claire hated this man with her entire soul. He had killed a man 20 years ago. She lived her whole life in deep shame. She became a lawyer to fight bad men. Now, the worst bad man was right here. "Why should I believe you?" she asked him. "You have nothing to lose," Arthur replied slowly. 24 hours of your time," he begged her. "Then I will give you the real truth. After that, I will leave you alone forever." Claire thought about his offer for a minute. She wanted to know the truth so badly. She wanted to close this painful chapter forever. "Fine," she said with a very cold voice. "One day, then you are dead to me." They left the tall building in total silence. Claire unlocked her expensive, shiny black car. Arthur sat in the passenger seat very carefully. He did not want to dirty her seats. The car smelled like new leather and perfume. "Where are we going?" Claire asked without looking. "Take us to the old house," he said. Claire gripped the steering wheel with angry hands. "That house is empty and broken," she snapped. "I know," Arthur said. "But we must go." She drove through the busy, loud city streets. The rain continued to hit the car windows. Arthur watched the city pass by in a blur. Everything had changed so much in 20 years. He felt like a ghost in a new world. They arrived at a quiet, poor neighborhood soon. She parked in front of a broken house. The paint was peeling off the wooden walls. The front yard was full of tall grass. This was where their family once lived happily. Arthur got out and stood in the rain. He touched the old, wooden front gate gently. "You used to play here," he said softly. Claire stood far away under a black umbrella. "I do not want to remember," she said. "You loved the yellow flowers here," Arthur continued. "Stop it," Claire ordered with a harsh voice. "You destroyed everything we had," she cried out. "You took a man's life for some money. You left Mom and me completely alone." Arthur looked at the ground with heavy sadness. "Your mother was a good, kind woman. Do not speak about her," Claire yelled loudly. "She died of a broken heart because of you." Her tears mixed with the cold, falling rain. Arthur took a deep breath of cold air. "I am so sorry, Claire," he whispered sadly. "Sorry does not fix 20 years of pain." She turned around and walked back to the car. Arthur followed her slowly, like a broken shadow. They sat in the car in heavy silence. The heater blew warm air on their faces. "We have 20 hours left," Arthur said quietly. "Where to now?" Claire asked with a sigh. "Let us get some hot food," he suggested. They drove to a small, cheap local diner. The diner was empty and smelled like coffee. They sat in a booth near the window. A waitress brought them 2 cups of coffee. Arthur held the warm cup with shaking hands. "You look very tired," Claire noted without emotion. "Prison is not a kind place," Arthur replied. "You deserved it," she said with angry eyes. Arthur took a slow sip of black coffee. He did not argue with her harsh words. "Why did you do it?" she asked suddenly. "Why kill that poor, innocent man?" she demanded. Arthur looked out the window at the rain. "The world is a complicated place," he said. "That is a weak excuse," Claire shot back. "I will tell you everything tonight," Arthur promised. "Tell me right now," she demanded very loudly. "No. We still have time," he told her. "I want to know my daughter first today." "You have no daughter," Claire said with hate. Arthur's heart broke into a million tiny pieces. But he kept a calm look on his face. "Tell me about your law firm," he asked. "I protect innocent people," she said with pride. "I put men like you in dark cells." "That is good," Arthur smiled a sad smile. "I am very proud of you, little bird." Claire hated that old, familiar childhood nickname. It brought back warm memories she wanted dead. "Do not call me that," she warned him. They finished their bad coffee in total silence. The rain finally stopped later in the afternoon. The gray clouds broke apart in the sky. A small ray of sunlight hit the street. "Let us go to the park," Arthur said. Claire drove them to the large city park. They walked on the wet, muddy dirt paths. Tall green trees surrounded them on all sides. A cold wind blew yellow leaves around them. Arthur walked with a very slow, painful limp. "What happened to your leg?" Claire asked him. "An accident in the yard," he lied softly. The truth was much darker and more painful. He got hurt protecting a weak, young boy. But he did not want her pity today. They sat on a cold, wet wooden bench. Children were playing on the swings far away. Their happy laughter filled the quiet, cool air. Arthur watched them with a gentle, soft look. "You loved the swings," he remembered out loud. "You used to push me," Claire whispered accidentally. She caught herself and looked away very quickly. She did not want to show any weakness. "I pushed you so high," Arthur smiled happily. "You were never afraid of the high sky." "I learned to be afraid later," she said. "When the police took you away in chains. When kids called me a monster's child. Arthur closed his eyes to hide his pain. He took all her anger without any complaint. The sun began to set in the sky. The sky turned a deep, dark purple color. The park slowly became empty and very quiet. "We only have 5 hours left," Claire noted. "Time moves too fast today," Arthur said sadly. "Take me to the cemetery," he asked her. Claire looked at him with sudden, sharp shock. "You have no right to visit her grave." "Please, Claire," he begged with wet, sad eyes. "I need to say goodbye to her tonight." Claire finally nodded her head in silent agreement. They drove to the dark, quiet city cemetery. The moon was full and bright tonight. They walked through the rows of gray stones. Claire stopped in front of a small grave. The stone read, "Mary, beloved mother and wife." Arthur fell to his knees on the wet grass. He placed his rough hand on the cold stone. Tears finally fell from his old, tired eyes. "I am so sorry, Mary," he cried softly. Claire watched him cry in the pale moonlight. She felt a strange tightness in her chest. She had hated him for 20 long years. But seeing him this broken made her confused. Could a cold killer love someone this much? Arthur stayed on his knees for a long time. He whispered quiet words to the cold stone. He asked his dead wife for her forgiveness. Claire stood behind him like a silent ghost. She waited for him to finish his tears. When he stood up, he looked very weak. "Thank you," he said to his angry daughter. "Let us go back to your warm house." "You are not coming inside," she told him. "We can talk in the car," he agreed. She drove to her large, expensive luxury house. She parked the car in the dark driveway. The engine turned off with a quiet click. "It is time," Claire said in the dark. "Give me the secret, and then get out." Arthur looked at his hands for a minute. 20 years ago, a man was killed downtown. "I know the facts," Claire interrupted him quickly. "You shot him in a robbery gone wrong. The police found the gun in your car." "The gun was in my car," Arthur agreed. "But my hands did not pull the trigger." Claire turned her head to look at him. Her heart started beating very fast right now. "What are you saying?" she asked with fear. "I did not kill that man," Arthur said. His voice was steady, calm, and completely clear. "Then who did?" Claire asked him very loudly. "Why did you go to prison for life? Why did you leave us all alone?" Arthur looked deep into her dark, beautiful eyes. "It was your Uncle Tommy," he said quietly. Claire stopped breathing for a short, terrible second. Uncle Tommy was a bad man with debts. He died in a crash 10 years ago. Tommy owed bad men a lot of money. He tried to rob that store to pay. Things went bad, and he shot the owner. He ran to our house in the night. He hid the gun in my old car. "Why didn't you tell the police?" Claire yelled. "Why did you take the blame for him?" "Because Tommy made a terrible threat," Arthur said. "He said the bad men would kill you. He said they would hurt my little bird." Claire's eyes went wide with pure, cold horror. "He told me to take the fall silently. If I did, he would protect you forever. I had to choose between my life and yours. I chose you, Claire. I always chose you." Silence filled the dark car like thick smoke. Claire felt her entire world spinning around her. Everything she believed for 20 years was wrong. Her father was not a cruel, cold killer. Her father was a brave, loving, tragic hero. "No," Claire whispered, shaking her head in denial. "This is a lie to make me care." "It is the truth," Arthur said very softly. "Tommy left a letter before he died earlier." Arthur pulled an old envelope from his jacket. He handed the dirty paper to his daughter. Claire turned on the small car light above. She opened the letter with violently shaking hands. It was Tommy's messy, ugly, familiar handwriting. He confessed to the murder and the threat. Tears blinded Claire's eyes as she read it. She dropped the paper on her lap quickly. A deep, agonizing pain exploded in her chest. She had hated an innocent man for years. She had hated the man who saved her. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she cried. "You were too young to understand the danger. Then the bad men died in prison later. But by then you already hated me deeply. I thought you were safer hating a monster." Claire broke down into loud, painful, heavy sobs. She covered her face with her shaking hands. 20 years of missing him crashed into her. He traded his entire life for her future. He sat in a cage so she could fly. Arthur reached out his hand very, very slowly. He placed his hand on her shaking shoulder. She did not pull away from his touch. Instead, she turned and fell into his arms. She hugged her father for the first time. "I am so sorry, Daddy," she cried loudly. "I am so sorry I hated you forever." Arthur held her tightly against his old chest. He kissed the top of her dark hair. "It is okay, my little bird," he whispered. "You're safe, and you're so successful. That is all I ever wanted for you." They sat in the car and cried together. The deep tragedy of their lost, dark years. The warmth of finding each other again today. The sun slowly began to rise up outside. The sky turned a soft, warm pink color. The 24 hours were officially over now. "My time is up," Arthur said with peace. He moved to open the car door slowly. Claire grabbed his rough hand very, very tightly. "No," she said with a strong, clear voice. "Your time with me is not over yet. It is just beginning today." She smiled brightly. "Let us go inside the house right now." Arthur looked at his daughter with happy tears. The cold, lonely winter in his heart melted. He was a free man in the light. He had his beautiful daughter back at last. Hope bloomed like a yellow flower in spring. They got out of the car together slowly. They walked up the path to her front door. He was not a guilty, bad father anymore. He was just a father coming back home. The dark past was finally washed completely away. Inside the house, it was warm and bright. Claire made them a fresh pot of coffee. They sat at the table and talked forever. They had 20 years of stories to share. The heavy silence was broken by pure love. Arthur looked out the window at the morning. The city looked beautiful in the bright sun. He had given up his life for love. And love had finally given his life back. The time bank of his pain was empty. His account was now full of bright hope. He drank his coffee and smiled at Claire. She smiled back with a heart full of respect. The tragedy ended, and the healing beautifully began. They had the rest of their lives now.